Welcome to completing every game from my childhood. Today is game 2 in the Naruto game marathon, Naruto Clash of Ninja 2 on the GameCube. This was probably the game I spent the third most amount of time in as a kid. If you didn't watch the previous episode on Clash of the Ninja, why haven't you? But also, I'll give you a quick rundown now. The mechanics are fun and gameplay is fluid, but the issues lied in the fact there was only 10 characters total with an awful story mode and a lack of game modes to choose from. And now, let's see if Clash of Ninja 2 can fix any of those issues. So the first thing I did was play the story, and honestly they somehow made the presentation worse than before. Instead of full body sprites, they have portraits of the characters instead. The worst part is that the first part of the story is literally the same as the first game. I get why you wouldn't want to change it since I'm sure time crunch was a real problem so they needed to cut corners, but I didn't remember the story being this bad. The only thing that kept it from being entirely awful is that the story is told slightly more accurately and they introduce a new mechanic, 4-player fights. This mechanic allows matches of up to 4 people to compete. You can even change the team so that one side is getting ganged up on by 3 others. This is used several times in the story and was by far the most cluttered and chaotic matches I had, but were also some of the most fun. There were even missions you'd get ganged up on by 3 others. Those missions were fun because you get more health to balance it out while the rest go down in 1 or 2 combos. Getting through the first arc took me 30 minutes instead of 25 this time. It really sucks to know half the story is just reused battles, but there are enough interesting changes to make it a slightly less awful experience. One thing I did really like was how they let you play as more characters than just Naruto. The first game only had you playing as him, but in this game you play as many characters besides him. The most common is Sasuke, but you can also get to play as Sakura, Kakashi, and Lee. I finished the story in about 1 hour and 15 minutes, which was with me watching all the cutscenes and credits. I can't say it's better than the first game, but if you were a kid who only had access to whatever random episode they played, this is a fine alternative. There are 20 battles to do and 13 of them are new, with 3 of the existing ones being changed to 3v1s or 2v1s. Obviously playing the game will never take priority over watching or reading the source material unless it's a game like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot or Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2, but for a child it goes by fast and gives you just enough information to not feel lost. I thought I was done talking about story mode, but you are actually able to buy story missions from the shop, which is a whole new mode added to the game. You earn money named Rio for every fight you do, and you can spend the money earned at the shop for basically everything. The first story mission was a pain because it had you facing Might Guy, and he deals like twice the amount of damage you do at any given time. One thing I realized fast while playing the game is how everything runs on money. You earn money for every battle you do, but you earn a lot by playing the one-player mode. Unlike in the first game, there are 10 matches total you have to do. Combined with a roster of double the size, this sure will be much more annoying. Just like last time, the matches are random until the final 2, where match 9 is against Kankuro and match 10 is against Gaara. I get Gaara, but Kankuro? Really? This dude got beat by someone not even in this game. Doing it will only net you about 2,000 Rio. This may seem like a big number, but the minimum cost for anything is 1,000 Rio, and it only goes up from there. After doing all the arcade I could and finishing up the story missions I was able to do, I was willfully unprepared for how much Rio it would take to finish this game. I also completed time attack and survival along the way, where after 30 battles I just gave up because it wasn't getting any harder, but I knew I already beat the first place record. Getting first in both of these modes unlocked difficulty 4 and attack power level 4. The attack power level 4 is a gift from God in this game, makes matches super fast. I like the character variety in this game. Sure, there's more than double the roster, but they aren't afraid to experiment with lesser known characters such as Mizuki or literally just Akamaru. You can also play as just Crow, but I never found him to be as much fun because he's basically Kankuro, but you remove half of his moveset. This is fine though, since these were just joke characters anyway, not meant to be taken seriously. So last game I ended up relying on playing against the computer to finish the game, and I'm happy to tell you that things don't change here. Every match you do gives 200 Rio, so to run through the entire cast as a single character will net over 4,000 Rio. It is very annoying and unfun to do. However, I am sure this is meant to be done over the course of many months and not in as fast of a time frame as possible like I'm doing. With that being said though, they could have been way nicer about the price of things in this game. The story missions start off small, only costing 1,000 Rio before immediately jumping up to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and then 5,000. The final level costs the most at 10,000 Rio, and there's 10 levels you have to buy in total. Mizuki is 15,000 Ryo, with Orochimaru being a staggering 50,000, and keep in mind arcade mode only gives 2,000 Ryo per run. There may be more content and more fun ways to play this game, but the grinding is my biggest complaint of the game. Everything requires Ryo. You don't unlock anything, you just unlock the right to buy a new thing from the shop. I don't say any of this to really hate on the game. This game is 100% better than the first game, it's just that I really wish the shop wasn't here because it really doesn't add anything to the experience. I'd rather unlock everything outright rather than get an item in the shop because half the time I don't even have enough money to buy it anyway. For as much crap as I gave gallery mode in the last game, at least it never charged me 50,000 Ryo for a character. After going through the arduous task of facing every single character with every single character, I amassed quite a lot of Ryo. I can talk about the final real mode I haven't explained yet, Oboro mode. This mode is based off a character in the manga and anime named Oboro, whose ability is to create very weak clones. As a result, this mode has you fighting against groups of weaker clones at once. It's also probably the best way to make money in this game, but it is very boring after the first few times. Doing battles against the CPU and Oboro mode got me to 50k Ryo, and I unlocked Orochimaru. I then earned 10k more and unlocked the final story mission. However, this small achievement was immediately ruined as the final character, Sasuke with Sharingan, costs 100,000 Ryo. I still have so much left to unlock in the shop without Sasuke throwing an extra 100,000 Ryo into the mix. This is where I called it for tonight. After so much effort, being told I'd have to earn another 100,000 Ryo felt like a Herculean task right now. At this point, you can easily guess what I did for the next few hours. I bit the bullet and did Oboro mode with the rest of my characters to get a good bit of Ryo, but the grind still wasn't done. It felt like no matter how much Ryo I got, there was still more to buy. It was a never-ending cycle of earning Ryo, spending Ryo over and over again, and I felt my will to complete the game slowly diminish more and more. The worst part was that this game had been a blast up to this point, but this grind is straight up awful, and one of the worst parts about this game. You earn Ryo too slowly for how much everything costs. But eventually, after grinding over and over, I was finally able to buy the last thing from the store, thus bringing an end to the 100% journey. Now let me just say, I've been debating where to place this game even when I was grinding out arcade mode, so let's discuss the pros and the cons of this game. Pros are the amazing gameplay with unique movesets for each character, a roster that is double the size of the first one. However, if you account for how many are just reskins of previous characters or just joke characters, you end up with 17. This isn't that bad though, because the first game had 8 characters if you didn't account for the 2 unlockables that were basically just reskins. Its story also encompasses more arcs, including a retelling of the first arc from the first game, making the first game completely obsolete. It has a lot more varied game modes, including Oboro mode, the ability to have CPUs fight each other, and 2v2 battles. And the cons are the story getting worse in its presentation, even if it does tell it a bit more favorably, a few notable characters being missing like the third Hokage and Kabuto for some reason. The shop started as a fun incentive to spend the money earned, but everything is required to be bought from this shop, and the price ends up going up over time, so it feels more like a chore than a reward. And finally, the Ryo you do gain is so minimal, it takes forever to complete the game. I do understand why it's like this though. This game was meant to tide gamers over before the next game was released. With that being said though, I think ultimately I'll place this game in B tier. It's really good, but the unlockables requiring so much work to get really dampers a great experience overall. This game took me 17 hours to complete apparently, according to the in-game timer, but it felt like a lot longer since I was basically doing the same thing over and over again to earn Ryo. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below, and if you wouldn't mind, please consider liking or subscribing to the channel. With that being said, I hope to see you next time, and have the day you deserve.